And welcome in, everybody. Hey, we're back for Hoopsville. Our audio's awfully low. We're going to have to work on that. Okie dokie. All those settings you test and test and test, and then they don't want to work for you. Let's see what happens when I turn up my own volume here. That does a little bit better. We'll work on getting our volumes up. And all that jazz. Welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. A 2012 season debut. Hope you all can hear us. We have a chat room to the side. We have plenty of other ways to get a hold of us. Duh, if you know Hoopsville. That's pretty obvious. But we are up and rolling. Follow us on Twitter at Hoopsville. D3 Hoopsville, I should say. D3 Hoopsville is where you can find us. You can also # Hoopsville. # is your Hoopsville. Believe it or not, we're still on AOL IM. That is Hoopsville 2000 on your AOL IM. And we'd love to hear from you there. And, of course, Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Don't forget the actual page, d3hoopsville.com. Chris, check out d3hoopsville.com for me, why don't you? Make sure we're on the air, because that's a priority for us. I hope you can hear us okay. As the mic levels are a little low, we will work on that. We got little tricks up our sleeve to help solve those problems. Obviously, it would be kind of dumb if we didn't. See, I just love how this thing doesn't want to cooperate. We will try and continue to work on this. Hold on a second. It just dawned on me on how I can solve some of these problems. Hope you are well. You're probably wondering why in the world can't hear us. I realize that. We will work on that shortly. Got lots to cover today, believe it or not. Lots to cover. Let's see how we do here. Go. Does that increase our volume? Maybe a little bit. Lots to cover tonight. We're going to talk the Vegas Classic. We're going to talk Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, East with our School of the Week, and South regions today. We're going to introduce you to one new region reporter. We'll also introduce you to one that maybe we haven't heard from since the beginning of Hoopsville, Lenny Reich from the Great Lakes. Going to talk to Hartwick, Gustavus Adolphus, and Piedmont. Very interesting stories. Of course, didn't do my homework and crossed it right up with our Around the Nation article. We'll work on not doing that in the future. Hope everybody can hear us. Like I said, we are working hard to make sure you have as best a broadcast as possible. And so on and so forth. Again, questions, you got the chat room. I'm actually popping that open as we speak. We're in there as well. You also have Hoopsville. It's your Twitter address, at D3 Hoopsville, # Hoopsville. Facebook is Hoopsville. We also have an email, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Lots to talk about early on. We have a lot of teams that are surprising, a lot of teams that are still undefeated. Certainly impressive to say the least on that side of things. And so on and so forth. So welcome into a new year. A couple minutes here. We'll talk to Jim Wagner, Wags, whatever you want to call him. He is the Ursinus SID and our regional reporter for the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll also talk to Mark Hanson from Gustavus Adolphus, 2-0 at the D3 Classic, D3Hoops.com Classic in Las Vegas, knocking off 2 undefeated teams. Not too shabby. We'll talk to him about not only that and how his team is doing, certainly with one of those players to watch on his team, with one of the leading scorers in the country. But we'll also talk to him about playing in a conference with the defending national champs, St. Thomas, and so on and so forth. Of course, playing the West region, which is with the likes of the WIAC and whatnot. So we'll talk to him about that. We're going to go down to the South, talk to Piedmont's women's basketball coach. Fascinating story there. Obviously, if anyone knows the show well, we debuted, I believe, our second season on the air with an interview with Coach John Zeke, who had been told by Cabrini he was no longer coming back. He has found a home in Piedmont. We're not talking to him. We're talking to the women's basketball coach who was under him and certainly gotten a lot of tutelage from him. Her team off to an 11-0 start this season, and she's pregnant. And I want to talk to her about the challenges that will bring and certainly how the team is doing so far this season. And not to be outdone, we'll head to the Great Lakes. Lenny Reich, as we mentioned, from Mount Union. No, we're not going to talk about their Purple Raiders football team that has now lost 3 straight to Whitewater in the Stag Bowl. We'll talk to him about his Purple Raiders Raiders basketball teams, but most importantly, the conference and, of course, the region as well. He certainly knows what he's talking about when it comes to out there. And we'll also head up to our first school of the week, our school of the week this year, Hartwick, who's also undefeated this year and receiving some top 25 love. We'll talk to them about the East region, their conference, which is, of course, actually, I'm blanking now, but, the challenges of the East Conference and, of course, teams and playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, I'll try and rant, too. I'm getting a little frustrated with fans who just feel like arguing every darn call, certainly wear their colors with pride, but I think are actually embarrassing their schools. That will be my rant tonight. We'll do some of that and have some fun with that, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of ways to contact us, and we hope you don't shy away from that. I have them all open in my windows, and hopefully we can use them. If you have any questions for us, join us on the chat room. As I mentioned, I'm looking in there. I see a few guests, but I don't see a lot of chatting. Please don't feel you shouldn't chat with us, as you can hear me typing. Heck, if you have IM, join us there. I know it's an old technology, but it still works pretty darn good. You can do that on Hoopsville 2000 is our AOL IM. Hoopsville 2000, which is, as always, an answer to a trivia question, which was the first show to hit the air. I shouldn't say when we were on the air first. It was the year 2000. Though we had a few years off in between. By the way, another segment we're going to do, if you can, actually, let me see if I can manipulate my camera here for you. Another thing we're going to be doing is I pan down here real quick. You may notice I'm wearing my alma mater shirt, Goucher College. Alma mater, the Gophers. Chris used to work there, as you can see Chris Tarr in the background. Chris, give us a wave. Hi. Are we on the air, by the way? Everything looks good? Very nice, very nice. Chris does have a microphone. We'll get him. By the way, we are adding a camera. But back to this shirt, and this camera likes to unfocus. Goucher College was helped us mainstay get the show back on the road, as it were, for the second year. And so I am wearing, I'm hoping, throughout the year, a shirt that I have received in some manner or fashion from somebody through some way over the years that represents Division III. And obviously we're starting with Goucher because that is my alma mater. And as well, they have helped Hoopsville immensely in the early years. We had 1 year on a different broadcasting base. Then we went about 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, I can't remember, with the show at Goucher with help with others. And then we went on the air and tackled it nicely here in our own studio. But so again, Goucher, might wear that one again. I got some other shirts down the road. I thought it might be a little fun wearing nothing but Division III regalia. Even have a couple D3 sports shirts to wear too. So if you're wondering what the shirts are all about this year, that's what they are all about. We are going to spend as little time as possible getting right to the next topic. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, though I haven't gotten his phone number up yet, or his picture up and running yet, Wags. I'll work on that. How you doing, Jim Wagner? Welcome to Hoopsville in the Mid-Atlantic Region Report. How you doing, first and foremost?
Good, Dave. Happy New Year to you. Long time no see. It's my last week out of Las Vegas. Had a nice little trip back from Las Vegas on New Year's Day. So, getting back into the swing of things and getting ready for a second semester hoops at Ursinus.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, did you see the fireworks on the Strip? I told you a spot to go see them.
I did. I went up on the
Nice.
on the garage and then watched them. It was a pretty nice sight, and then got
must have been
a
unreal.
4 hours sleep to stand in line at the check-in for 45 minutes to check my bag, which was great. Thinking that no one's going to be at the airport at 5:30. Come on, they're all going to be sleeping. Boy, was I wrong.
Whoa, jeez, I'm sorry. Wags joined us out there in Vegas for the D3Hoops.com Classic. Invaluable asset to join Pat Coleman, Gordon Mann, and myself in calling games and helping us. Obviously, he was out there because Ursinus was out there for the Classic. Let's talk about the Classic from your point of view and mine. We got to see 20 teams. Count them, 20 teams, 12 on the men, 8 on the women's side. A little bit too many. 20 games in 4 days, 7 on 2 different days. I think they're going to cap it next year at 8 men, 8 women at the most. And in the future, and I think that's a little bit more manageable for everybody. Of course, every team is guaranteed 2 games. You saw plenty of basketball, maybe teams you would never see in any other circumstance besides your Bears. What did you think of the Classic when you were out there?
I thought it was a well-run operation. Hats off to Sports Tours for the job that they did. Hats off to the South Point Hotel and Casino. Fabulous arena. If you have not seen it, there are pictures of it online. It's for Division III schools to play in a venue like that. Seats about 4,500, 5,000 people. I mean, it's a great venue. Saw a lot of good teams, like you said, teams that I normally wouldn't see throughout the year that we will play them. One team that I was especially impressed with was Transylvania. I thought that they did a great job. They had a great team. Coach Lane did a great job with those guys. Played a tough game against a good Laverne squad coming out of the West. Got to see good women's teams in Simpson, Thomas More, River Falls. But I was mostly impressed with Transylvania and also Ramapo. I think Ramapo was a good, strong team. I know that they played their Ursinus pretty well and pulled away. But Ramapo and Transylvania and Gustavus Adolphus, well, I got to see them once, and they were a great team. So it was a good classic, good representative of all the teams across the country, and it was a great week of basketball.
Gotta love the picture you sent me. We just put up on the air. It is of you at the arena, if anyone is curious. I'm a little jaded. I'll freely admit that. Tell me, and obviously I don't know it from the team's point of view, and I've heard this from many people, and so I almost plead innocent on this one, and really don't know where it comes from. Why does everyone say this is such a good tournament? Why does everyone say it's well put together? I mean, I'm coming from the media point of view. I'm broadcasting my tail off. I barely see Vegas because I'm not there to see Vegas. Why, right, from your point of view, from an Ursinus point of view, from these players and coaches' point of view, is this such a great tournament? Sometimes you don't hear anything about these tournaments.
Yeah, I think it's how easy the travel is when you get there. What's taken care of? Your hotel rooms are all booked and everything. Your game times, the game times, very rarely will we more than probably 30 minutes behind at any point. We had 2 days of 7 games. The officiating was good, just a well-oiled machine. They were able to get one game done, get right into the second game. Stats were never a problem. The officiating was good. Locker room space was ample. There was plenty of water and training services. The little itty-bitty pieces that add together. So when you go somewhere, the only thing you have to worry about is either coaching or playing your game. And that's what Sports Tours did. Everything, in the hotel, there was no ground transportation needed to go to your game. You just go down the elevator, made a left in the hallway, made another left, went up the stairs. You're at your venue. You're at your venue in less than 2 minutes. You were able to change in your locker room, go back to your rooms and shower or do whatever. I think that having it all in one location just makes it easier, because then if you're traveling somewhere, you don't know how long it's going to take with traffic and this and that. But, I think having it all in one venue or a hotel, there was restaurants there, having everything there in one place really makes it a lot easier. Less you have to worry about when you travel. All you have to worry about is for coaches to coach their team. The players, all to worry about is playing. That's it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm pleading completely innocent here. I don't know that from that point of view, so I was kind of curious what you go from. You mentioned some of the teams you saw. Obviously, Transylvania impressed, Gustavus Adolphus impressed. What else stood out from you about that classic?
I think most of the games were pretty tight games. You had rarely had a couple of blowouts here and there. I mean, you got to see the number 1 team in the women's side at Amherst, how good they were. I got to see teams in the region, Merchant Marine. I got to see Wesley. Teams that, further on down the line as you get ready for the NCAA tournament, you got to keep your eye on to say, hey, we may see these teams in the tournament. But, those teams stood out. Ramapo really stood out in my mind. Obviously, the way that they beat Ursinus and the talent that they had. But, to have a good group of teams, and again, you and I don't see the Western teams, and a lot of people don't realize there are Division III schools in California and in the western part of the country. And those teams, like we talked about during the games, don't get to play a lot of D3 games because of so few schools out there.
Yeah.
But they see them play a Transylvania and to play them into overtime. It just gives you a whole representation about D3 hoops in the country, that there are other regions besides the Northeast, the South, the Mideast, the Mid-Atlantic, where other teams are at and how good they are. So, you know, it was a great representation of the country to see different teams, and I was glad that I got to make the trip to see, you know, not only my team play 2 games, but to see other teams that I may not see for 5 years play basketball.
Sure. Ursinus obviously made the trip. We can use them a little bit to slide in there, but we'll get to them in just a minute. Obviously, you saw some good women's basketball as well. I thought there were some surprises. Simpson played pretty well. Carthage, you know, knocked off River Falls, who, by the way, just the other night knocked off Stevens Point, the number 8 team in the country. Does this also give you a different appreciation for the different regions and how they all play and how different brands of basketball play, women's especially?
Absolutely. You look at some of the similarities between regions. You know, being in the Mid-Atlantic, you look at the Centennial, you look at the CSAC, the 2 Mid-Atlantic conferences, and you look and you see some of the teams that, okay, how would this team do in my conference? How would a Simpson do in the Centennial Conference? How would an Amherst do if they played in, let's say they played in the Commonwealth or Freedom? Mm-hmm. You kind of see how they match up when it comes tournament time, and I was very, very impressed with Amherst. I know that they really, you know, you look at the WPI score and you think, what happened? I mean, That wasn't Amherst running up the score. I think Amherst had 80 points with about, 15 minutes to go in the second half. That's how they were just clicking on all cylinders, which number 1 teams do. Yeah. But you get to look and you get to see different teams, and you kind of compare to, okay, well, the Simpson team looks like maybe a Muhlenberg in the Centennial Conference, or River Falls looks like, looks like Cabri's women in the CSAC. It kind of varies to see, you know, how the teams look. You compare them to your own conference and see how they would stack up.
Let's talk about your conference and how they stack up, and we'll talk about the rest of the Mid-Atlantic. Of course, in the Mid-Atlantic, Wesley and Ursinus made the trip, and slightly in the Mid-Atlantic, more like the Atlantic, Ramapo made the trip, and so did Merchant Marine, which plays a lot of Mid-Atlantic basketball. Let's start with the Bears. I know it was a tough start to the season. I think a lot of people thought, you know, we could do better and we can improve, but in my humble opinion, it looks like there's a long way to go.
Yeah, they kind of knew that this was gonna be young, and they were gonna have another young year. But now that we're back in the conference play, you kind of see now from here on out we'll play conference teams. So, you know, starting off with the Johns Hopkins team that's pretty good on Saturday, and then they go to Gettysburg, and then they go back to play McDaniel for the second time, a team that they were leading at the half. So from here on out, even though Ursinus is 3-9, they're still 2-3 in the league. In right now about 6th place, with now almost hitting the halfway point on the conference schedule. Again, they still got to play Franklin and Marshall. They still got to play a good Washington team twice, who won the Cal Lutheran tournament out west. They got to play Muhlenberg twice, who some people picked would be the top of the league. But I think now that, you know, they only have 8 home games this season. They went and did what Coach Small, I guess, was begged not to do, and just play the 9 home games, that are mandated by the league. Yeah. So they have their next 3 of their next 5 are on the road. They'll be home Saturday, then home next Saturday with McDaniel before going to Swampville, which isn't much of a trip. But it's going to be a tough road, and whatever they can get out of this team. Again, they've got sophomore guards, they've got juniors inside, they have one or two seniors. So, you know, they've come so close the last couple of years to making the tournament. The Centennial Conference tournament, making it 2 years ago, and last year coming up for last weekend. It's all about what they can do in the second half of the season and hopefully minimize the damage from the first half.
Of course, this is a conference where you have to go up against Franklin and Marshall, for example, who tonight defeated Oneonta State in its second match. By the way, that game does not count in its NCAA schedule, if anyone's curious, so I'm sure we'll cover that later. Beat them 65-46. F&M team that I personally think's a little overrated. I could be very well, could be wrong. But this is a conference that goes through F&M. It goes through, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It goes through Coach Glenn Robinson, you could say. Can Ursinus pull the upset? Can anybody pull the upset in this conference?
I think so. You never know to the end. One team gets hot at the right time. Gettysburg did it a couple of years ago, where they won the tournament at F&M. F&M, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They did beat St. Mary's. They've won a couple
of... A weakened St. Mary's team, let's point out. Mm-hmm.
a couple of road games in the conference. They won at Washington, which is always a tough place to play. But coming up now, they got Swarthmore Saturday, and they have Muhlenberg at home. That'll be a good one. It's the first time they'll play the Mules.
Right.
And there's one or two teams in this league that have a habit of beating F&M at the right time. Dickinson has done it. McDaniel has done it. And, of course, Lancaster is a tough place to play. But, you know, Ursinus gets them at home on February 1st, and that's traditionally been a tough game for them. I want to see what's going to happen in the next couple of games, especially with Muhlenberg. Muhlenberg, I think, is a very strong squad, a team that could do it in the Centennial Conference. Johns Hopkins 3-0 in league play. I know they lost to Hood last night, but that's coming back after playing at Center Kentucky. So I'm interested to see what F&M could do in the next couple of weeks, getting in towards the end of January. And I think that they have the chance to go undefeated in the league. I don't think it's going to happen, but there is that chance that it's going to happen. But there is, like I said, one team in this league that always finds a way to beat F&M, either at home. It doesn't usually happen in Lancaster. It happens on the road, and it could be a number of teams. But I think the team with the strongest chance to do it would be Muhlenberg. I'm really impressed by the Mules.
Let's slide out of the Centennial a little bit. I think consensus chat amongst the group of us in Vegas was the Mid-Atlantic is certainly maybe down this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's been down for a while, and F&M and St. Mary's have kind of hidden that fact. St. Mary's is certainly down. We got a chance to see Wesley out there, a team that I think is struggling a little bit more than I anticipated. I think they're a good team. I think they blew a huge lead to Merchant Marine. Huge lead to Merchant Marine. From your point of view, what did you think of the Wolverines? What do you think of the rest of the region?
I think the Wolverines were a strong team. They certainly had some talent and some size, and I was impressed by their athletic ability. I tell you, there's one team out there that you got to keep your eye on a little bit. Is this LICO team out of the Commonwealth that's 12-0? I was just looking through their schedule a couple of minutes ago, and while they are 12-0, some people aren't sold on them right now, but they've got a couple of 2-point wins on their belt. I mean, they won two 2-point games, back-to-back games on the road in the Commonwealth. They won at Albright and then went back and won at Albernia. They beat Susquehanna by 1. They beat a Wilkes team by 2 at home. Now, they have a couple of the Penn State, 3 of the Penn State teams on their schedule. They played a Staten Island team that's traditionally been good, but now they go to Kings on Saturday, and then they play Lev Val at home, and Lev Val's always traditionally been a strong team. They haven't played Widener yet, and Widener right now 10-2. One of their losses coming to Cabrini, who I am very impressed by. Cabrini's just reloaded after what they did last year. I know they tripped up down in center for their first loss of the year, but I see them winning the Colonial States Athletic Conference. I'm going to see them actually in a couple of weeks when they play Rosemont.
I think we'll mark that down as a week you're coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they tripped up against Center. They lost by 2, but you look at some of the games that Cabrini has won. They beat Widener. They beat Keystone, who's traditionally good. They beat a track meet over Gwen and Mercy, who's also traditionally very good. Won against Scranton, beat Johns Hopkins, and they get back into league play. They beat York yesterday. They get back into league play this weekend. They got Immaculata. Then they got Centenary, and then they go to Rosemont. So, Cabrini, I was very impressed by what they do. Again, you talked about John Zeke earlier on. Yeah. Back in 04, 05 when it was his last year, and Cabrini went through a revolving door of coaches. And you have Marcus Kahn, who's done a phenomenal job with the Cavaliers. They believe in him. They believe in what he's doing with that team, and that team is really playing well. I got to work 2 of their games last year when they hosted the regional. They played New Jersey City, and they played SUNY Purchase before losing to Worcester out at Worcester. So, great to see the school getting behind them and a team in an area such as Philadelphia that's very strong in basketball. I could say, for example, last night Division I wise, 5 of the city's 6 teams that played won. Villanova's playing tonight, but you had Temple beating Duke, you had St. Joe's beating Duquesne, stuff like that. And same goes for Division III. This region, especially in Philadelphia, there's a lot of good teams that can bring it to be 10-1 in the city and get all that attention is great for the school and great for the program.
Anything down the road that you see that people need to keep an eye on in this? Obviously, you mentioned Cabrini and their schedule, but anything else that we need to keep our eye on in this region?
I think that you would kind of want to watch. I'm looking at the Allegheny Mountain Conference in Medina, 11-1. Their only loss was to Dickinson. In the Colonial States, keep an eye on Cabrini. Keystone is always traditionally very good versus Gwen and Mercy. In the Landmark, you have Catholic at 11-1 right now. Keep an eye on them. And looking into Freedom, I believe there's recording of 9-4. Always keep an eye on them. They're always traditionally a good team. But keep your eye on that Lyco squad. I think it's a 14-15-0. Especially with the schedule, they're beating Lebanon Valley. I mean, that will be huge for that program to be that good. And I would keep an eye on Lyco just down the road, what they can do further on down the line.
Hey, I got a score that just got tweeted from the Centennial Conference. I think you'll find this one interesting in women's basketball action. Gettysburg and Haverford are tied at 59 heading to overtime. If anyone's curious, the Gettysburg women's basketball team is 22-0 against Haverford, and they're heading to overtime.
And Haverford's women coached by Bobby Morgan, who had a great career at Cabrini, and she's really. I said it a couple when she was hired. In the next 3 or 4 seasons, once she gets through when she gets all her players in, Haverford will compete in this conference. And people, Haverford has been down for a while.
Yeah.
They've got good teams, and Bobby's a great coach. And especially if you do well in the Centennial on the women's side, with Gettysburg, with Muhlenberg, with Johns Hopkins, you do good in that conference, you're going to go far. If you can get above 500 and get into the tournament, tournament in the Centennial, you have a good chance of making the NCAA tournament if you get into that final game.
Very good. Hey, did you enjoy your first time out, sir?
I did. I had a great time in Las Vegas. I got to see a lot of things on Saturday. I took my time, walked up and down the strip, got to see the different casinos. I was a little disappointed in Circus Circus. I thought that it would be more than what it was, but at least I got to. You have a casino on the bottom floor. On the top floor, you have a midway.
Yeah.
People were doing like acrobats and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting. You look at that, and then you go to Steve Wynn's casino, and Steve Wynn's casino is just immaculate. Got to walk around, got to see plenty of sights, and it was a great trip to go out and see our basketball team play. Our kids had a great time. We got home safe, so it was a little bit of a work vacation. Good way to energize. Get ready for the second semester.
Very good, sir. Well, we appreciate you coming out. Thanks so much, and thanks for joining me on Hoopsville here. I'm going to enjoy getting a couple reports out of you this year.
No problem, Dave. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jim Wagner, who we call Wags here on the show. We appreciate him joining us here. If anyone's curious, we're going to try a new rotational thing here on Hoopsville a little bit. Try and get people in on the show that we don't normally talk to. Try and get different voices, different views. Wag certainly prepared with that one, I'll admit. We're going to take a bit of a break. No ads today. I apologize. We're just had a couple difficulties tonight. We'll get those ready to go for you down the road. But in the meantime, we're just going to kind of go to a logo, as it were, and take a break. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at Hoopsville2000. Join us in the chat room. I know there's a few of you in there. Follow us and Twitter us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or #Hoopsville. If you ask a question there, we'll certainly try and answer that during the show. Of course, go to our 2 web pages, Facebook /Hoopsville or d3hoopsville.com. That's where you can get a lot of information as well. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about Vegas with Gustavus Adolphus head coach Mark Hanson and his team and everything that entails his team. We'll be back after this. And welcome back to Hoopsville. Appreciate you all hanging in there as we take a break there every once in a while. Got to catch our breath and prepare for the other segments. Again, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Don't forget to join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or #Hoopsville. We will answer your questions throughout there as well. And please also don't forget you can there's something else. On the website, facebook.com/Hoopsville, and, of course, d3hoopsville.com, which many of you are probably listening to the show as we speak through there. Lots to cover. We were talking about Vegas just a short time ago with a wonderful addition to the broadcasting crew out there, and that was Wagner, Jim Wagner from I'll figure this out. Air sinus. I'm doing multiple things. It always doesn't work out that way. But out there, Gustavus, one of the teams that certainly surprised us. I don't know if about surprised us, but certainly surprised many and knocked off 2 undefeated teams was Gustavus Adolphus and their men's basketball coach Mark Hanson joining us here on Hoopsville. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate you joining me, especially last minute. It's always last minute in these first couple of shows. But first off, congratulations on what I can only say was a pretty spectacular classic for you guys. You knocked off Hardin Simmons in the first game in a hard-fought game and against one of the leading scorers in the country, and we'll get to your leading scorer in the country here shortly. And then, of course, you took on Transylvania, who battled Laverne the night before and looked ready to take you guys on. And you guys kind of just hung around, and kind of made that push past them at the last minute, and they didn't have an answer for you.
Well, that's right. I felt fortunate to be hanging around. Those are 2 very good teams. In fact, I was going to talk to whoever was in charge of the pairings to figure out what we had done to get that pair of teams.
It's a reward, Coach. It's a reward.
Yeah, well, it didn't feel like it when we were preparing for it. And yet it was probably what we needed to see what we were made of.
Well, certainly showed a lot, I think, of what you guys are made of. Let's talk about the team so far. I mean, you're 7-3, 4-2 in a pretty tough MIAC conference. Your losses are to La Crosse, certainly doesn't look bad. Your loss to St. Thomas looks like it was a tough one. You lose to St. Olaf, but you get a couple wins here. You get them back to town, as it were, and you defeat St. Mary's to kind of start the new year. How do you feel? Do you think Vegas gave you an advantage here going into the rest of the season?
Well, I think the fact that we played games during that stretch is one of the significant pieces, so that you're not rusty going into the rest of the conference schedule. And then I think the level of play that we ran up against, I hope, built some confidence. I don't know that there's a lasting effect. I think
Sure.
there's the belief that you can beat people, but that doesn't sort of like buying a stock. It doesn't mean anything for what's going to happen in the next few weeks. So it was positive in a lot of regards, and hopefully we can keep some of the taste of that.
You certainly have a wide variety of players on your team in the sense of classes, everything from freshmen to seniors. They're sprinkled quite a bit, but you certainly have quite a few seniors, and 2 of them that are certainly getting attention and well-deserved. Seth Anderson, for starters, who, if memory serves, is shooting the lights out of the building. I don't have actually thought I had the stats in front of me and don't. But shooting the lights out of the building, and then you get a contribution in that last game against Transylvania from a guy like Tyler right at the last minute, hits a big key shot for you. But you're spreading it out as well. Tell us a little bit about the team outside of Anderson. We'll get back to him.
Well, I think it's what we think of as kind of classic Gustavus stuff. We've got, I believe, some really solid posts, and we use them as a group probably more than we have in the past when we've had some clear all-conference kinds of posts. And we tend to get in enough foul trouble that we need them all. But and we've had one of our past posts, and maybe the one that would have been the best one is recovering, or I guess it's not really recovering at this point. He blew his ACL out for the 4th time this summer, and has been playing sporadically, but always without an ACL. And there's always some tentativeness with him, but he's pretty talented in what he can do. and a big part of, I think, the emotion of our team. And so we've got 4 posts that play very differently from each other and give us, I think, a different look, and it allows us to match up with different teams. And then our perimeter, and Tyler Gray's one of them. He hasn't shot well this year, but he's probably an upper 30s sort of three-point shooter over the course of his career. And he's been, like I said, he's been struggling this year, but he made a big one for us against Transylvania that put us on top. But everybody's it's a group of 8 guys that are seniors, and everybody sort of gives a little piece of what they can do, and there's a concern because you just don't know who's going to do it on a given night. But so far, there's been enough of it that somebody's come through.
Sure. Of course, one of the top 5 scorers in the country is on your team, Seth Anderson. Of course, that made the Harden-Simmons game rather interesting to watch, watching 2 top 5s go at each other in very different ways. You know, Harden-Simmons, it's all through him, where Seth is, sometimes doesn't bring the ball up the court. He's being set up by his teammates. Sometimes he takes a step back and sets up his teammates. But he's still averaging 26-plus points a game. He's averaging 4.5 rebounds. Not to be outdone, he's handing out quite a few assists, and he's shooting 59-60% from the floor. Tell us a little bit about this guy, who I had the privilege of certainly watching in Vegas. Maybe nobody else got that chance, and what makes him special. Because when you look at a roster, to be completely honest, when you see 26.3 from one guy, the next guy's at 9.9, the next guy's at 7.0, a lot of people think this is a one-dimensional team.
Yeah, it would appear so. And what's kind of remarkable about him is, unlike Matt Addison, who I think can really impress you with his quickness and athleticism, Seth doesn't really stand out that way. He's sort of a no-nonsense 6'2". It's probably stretching a little bit. He's probably really 6'1". It doesn't jump especially high, and he isn't especially quick or fast. But he's a little bit of an old school player in that he does most of what he does on mid-range jumpers. He's taken 7 threes for the year, I think, and probably half of those shouldn't have been taken. And while he'll work his way to some layups, I think probably 60 to 70% of his shots are 10 to 15-foot shots. Yeah. And to shoot 60% doing that is really pretty impressive.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's pull-up jumpers. It's not the kind of thing it's that mid-range game that I think a lot of people bemoan the loss of, where it's become either an inside or a three-point sort of game. He still has that mid-range jumper that's pretty fun to watch.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I remember hearing from one person, I think it might have been Harden-Simmons' SID, who helped with broadcasting out there as well. He looked at Pat Coleman and said, wait a minute, this guy's averaging 26-plus points a game, and he's 2 for 7, or at that time it might have been 1 for 5 from beyond the arc. That number can't be right. And, of course, we triple-check, and it is right. But that is his key. It's that 15-foot shot.
Yeah, and I wasn't joking when I said some of those threes shouldn't have been taken. And in fact, one of the 2 that he's made was one of the last gasp, we got to throw it up there shots in our opening win against Buena Vista. And I think people would love to have him take threes.
Yeah.
But he's smart enough to know that's not where his game is best, and I think our players have rallied around what he does best and appreciate that he isn't one-dimensional. He's leading our team in assists and works hard defensively, and he's really a very complete player.
Let's talk about a little bit outside the team. Let's talk about the conference. Obviously, the MIAC. I'm sorry, MIAC. Obviously, the headlines are usually St. Thomas's. Even other teams have gotten into the fray there. Gustavus Adolphus certainly comes along quite often and tries its best to win this conference. But St. Thomas has been stealing the headlines, national champions, et cetera, et cetera. How tough is the conference this year? Is St. Thomas beatable? And I know some of these might be easy questions. And who do you think comes out on top of this conference this year?
Well, I'm not going to answer the last one. I hope it's us.
A fair point. Fair point.
Just before last night's games, there was a one-game. The 10th place team had, I believe, 2 losses, and the first place team had one. So that gives an indication, at least right now, 6 games in, that there's a pretty significant parity in the conference. Whether that will continue as we watch the next 2 and 3 weeks unfold, history would indicate that there's gonna have to be some separation someplace, sometime. But this could be one of those years where that 10th place team is still in the playoff hunt, a week before the playoffs begin. And I'm sure a lot of fans would like that, and all the bloggers would have lots to talk about, and it'd be horrible for us as coaches.
Of course, you have the same record with St. Thomas at 7-3 right now. You're a half game behind them because of one extra loss in the loss column in the conference standings. I'm sure as a conference you guys were thrilled to see St. Thomas win a national championship. At the same time, you're probably frustrated it wasn't you. But Carleton has been in this. Hamlin's always gotten attention. Augsburg gets attention. This conference is pretty deep year in and year out with names that we're talking about. What was the reaction when St. Thomas won this?
Well, I didn't take a poll on it. I would be honest in saying that I had mixed feelings about it. Having been there and feeling like we had a good shot of winning it, I'm sure they were excited and it was wonderful for them. I had a lot of people say, well, wouldn't you want them to win because that'd be great for the conference? And I thought, well, I don't know that it does much for the conference. It's certainly good for them.
Sure.
I have a high regard for St. Thomas and their staff and how they've played over the years. And you can't help appreciating what they were able to accomplish this year. And they had teams that could have done it before that as well. They've for the last 5 or 6 years, they've been pretty dominant in our conference. Carleton's snuck in there into the playoffs and won the conference once, but St. Thomas has controlled it for about 5 or 6 years here, and we're hoping that's going to change.
I was going to say they obviously lost a lot, and certainly makes the conference look, come back to order if it were, have them come back to the conference. How does this conference line up with the rest of the West? And, of course, that's tough. You've got the WIAC sitting in there with you guys. But how do you think the conference, how do you think these teams, especially you guys, line up with the rest of this West region?
Well, in our region, that's a very difficult thing to ascertain because of the size of our conference, for one. There isn't as much interconference play.
Sure.
There's probably been a little bit more between us and the WIAC this year than some other years, but it's 1 or 2 games between teams, or within each of us maybe 1 or 2. We so rarely see the West teams.
Right.
Hamlin played Chapman this year, and St. Olaf did go out and had a couple of games, and I don't know that anybody has done anything with the Northwest, and there's some intermix with the Iowa Conference. So it's really hard to judge because we're sort of these 5 islands with just a little bit of interplay, which I think adds to some of the excitement as we get down to the end and start to see who's likely to play in the national tournament, and we see those matchups and the big games that do become interconference. I think. To judge conferences, what's really becomes important is how are those best teams in the conference, and are they capable of beating anybody in any other conference? And I think we probably have a number of teams who it's going to be interesting to see as they develop and see how they're playing as the season progresses and see how strong they are then. I don't know that anybody is likely to have played at their best yet.
Which is, at this time of year, you hear that a lot, and actually kind of scary sometimes when you look at certain teams. Back to Vegas quickly, the Transylvania game and that Hardin-Simmons game certainly challenges, but you come out with 2 wins. What is that, from your point of view, getting a chance to play 2 teams from very different parts of the country, probably very different styles? Of course, Hardin-Simmons and Transylvania did play different styles of basketball. How does that help you as a coach? How does that help your team?
Well, for one, it's just fun. It's to have to look up where a team is from, and not only the 2 teams that we played, but the other teams in the shootout. A lot of our guys, while they may have heard the names before, and some of them I'm sure hadn't, it was just fun to see what state they were from and what city they were from, and to run into some of the players and get to meet them at least a little bit. So it's fun to just to have no initial scouting report, to have no real clear sense of what that style is. It doesn't take long to watch a videotape of especially Hart and Simmons to see that they're a very different style to what we are. I think that we're probably more similar in style to Transylvania, but with a different kind of personnel.
Sure.
We probably have more of the true post players, and their post players are really difficult to guard because they're not true posts. They're out there on the perimeter, and that's a strange spot for our post to have to defend. And I thought they did a nice job with it.
It's something I've always found interesting, and I've seen you coach in different aspects. Obviously, we saw you, I believe, in Salem.
Yes.
Yes, I was double-checking my memory there for a quick second. I didn't want to say that and go, oh, sorry, Coach, that was somebody else. But, I've seen you there. I've seen you, obviously, in Vegas. I've seen you on broadcast several times. I find it fascinating that you can sit almost an entire game without much expression. And I mean that in the sense that you're very stoic on the sideline, no matter what's happening on the court. During a comeback, you're doing your job, as it were. How hard is it, though, to not get emotional? You see coaches get emotional. You'll see coaches get fired up. You also see coaches like yourself who don't have much of a reaction in some senses. But how hard is it, or is it just become ingrained?
Well, I'm not unemotional. There's certainly a lot going on in my head and in my chest. My sense is, and if you saw me as a player, you'd say, well, he coaches differently than he plays. I've yet in 22 years changed an official's mind, as far as I could tell. My sense is that most of what I say as the game goes on, players aren't hearing anyway. Some of it, I think, would be a waste of time. And I hope that we're doing our jobs on the practice floor and in film sessions and teaching, so that our players can play with a sense of knowing what they're supposed to do and not be looking for our instructions and our reactions during a game. And if we do that, I think we open them up to playing with hopefully a sense of freedom that allows it to be a player's game and not a coach's game.
Interesting. I got a rant coming up about fans a little bit, so I'm kind of prefacing that with this question to you, being that the fact you say you've never known to change an official's mind, saying that you stay stoic. What do you think of the fans who dressed in their team's garb or not, and are just lighting up officials on every call, on every play, on every non-call? Do you have a position where you almost feel what do you think of it? I mean, do you have an opinion about how they are maybe behaving?
I probably have a number of opinions. Some of them maybe unfair in that I don't notice fans much during the games that we play. So my reaction would be to fans in a somewhat limited observations of televised games, which I think is different from what most of Division III is.
Sure.
I think that the fans give so much energy to an event and to our players, and if they're dressed up and they're excited and they add to a sense of the environment, I think that's great for our players, because for the most part they toil in obscurity.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because of who they are, what they are, the fact that they are doing this for the love of the game. And I don't mean to imply that scholarship players aren't doing it for the love of the game, but they do have something more.
Mm-hmm.
When it becomes derogatory to other teams and players and fans, I'd just soon that go away. I don't like it when at the end of the national anthem fans finish as if it's their anthem, because it's the national anthem. It's not the Gustavus anthem or the St. Thomas anthem or anybody else's anthem. And I think it deserves some respect. So I think there are times that fans, as rabid and appreciative as they are for what's happening, possibly step over the line. And if we can step over that line less often, I think all the energy and enthusiasm and activity that they give our players and Division III basketball, I'd hate to see that go away.
That's a fascinating point of view. I appreciate that. Before we let you go, the one thing I can't go without asking and talking to you quickly about is, you are an alum, 83 if I'm not mistaken. You mentioned you played with this team. You still hold the record for the most points by a Gusty basketball player in men's basketball, 1,770. Something is off the top of my head. I don't want to assume I got the right number there, but what's it like to be in your 22nd season coaching the team that you played 4 years with and certainly put your heart and soul into?
Well, let's make it clear. I graduated in 1983. I'm not 83.
No. You're right. Graduated in 83.
Like I'm getting closer every day.
No, don't want to do that for you. No, I'm sorry. No.
I wouldn't continue doing it if I didn't love it. I think it was a natural thing once I got started coaching here at Gustavus that to be at my alma mater, to be at a place that has wonderful academics and athletics, and I think a great atmosphere that fits me and the kinds of kids that become attracted here. It's been a very fast 22 years, but I don't think we're going to be talking in 22 years that I'm still the coach. So it's fun to be a part of that history, both as a player and a coach. And I hope that I'm able to help provide some of the same experience and emotion with my players that I was able to have as a player.
Very good, Coach. I appreciate you joining me here on Hoopsville tonight, talking about your team and talking about the conference and the region, obviously, as well. We always have a tradition here on the show. We always give the coach or the guest the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who are listening here on our season premiere tonight?
Well, this probably happens to you a lot, and I don't necessarily have the time to listen to this show because I'm generally recruiting or coaching. But
understandable.
I think it's remarkable how much exposure your show and D3 Hoops and all does for, again, our players who generally are toiling in obscurity, and for them to know that there's a platform of people who care and understand the experiences they're having, I think is great. And to see that this is so much bigger than scholarship level play and what we see on TV. So thanks for all that you do.
Hey, well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. The ability for you guys to come on the show certainly makes doing this job and highlighting you guys a lot easier, and I appreciate the kind words. And good luck the rest of the way. Obviously, you have a Stout coming up here on Saturday before getting back into conference play. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll certainly be keeping an eye on the Gusties.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Coach Mark Hanson from Gustavus Adolphus joining us here on Hoopsville. Again, they take on Wisconsin Stout. That'll be their second Wisconsin team of the season, or WIAC team, I should say, before they get back into conference play with St. John's and McAllister. They'll rematch with St. Thomas later in January, trying to avenge that 79-61 loss earlier in the season. Again, if you got a chance to see this team in sport, especially their top player, Seth Anderson, well worth it. Go catch some video of these guys, and Coach Hanson has done a fantastic job there. Hats off to him in every way, shape, and form. So I alluded to it with Coach about fan behavior. And if you don't mind, we have an old tradition here on Hoopsville where I get to rant. Usually I'm writing them out. Didn't get a chance to do that here. We're going to do it about once a week, hopefully, on Thursday nights, and we hope you don't mind me getting an opportunity to kind of just voice my opinion about something. It may be good, it may be bad, it may be in between. Today it's about fan behavior. I get it. I totally get it. But I'm also frustrated and done with it. As a Goucher alum, I certainly went to my fair share of men's basketball games, women's as well, where I was a fan. Now, of course, when I was at Goucher, I've been their public address announcer for 17 years now. I think that's right. So at Goucher games at home, I wasn't a fan. I worked. I'm at the table. I'm professional. But when I went on the road to games and I was a student, I certainly voiced my opinion. I certainly told off official, or not told them off, but told them what I thought about a call. Until one day, I saw one official at my arch rival, Catholic University. And I rid him hard because, you know what? He wasn't that good an official in my eyes. Still don't think he was a quality official, but as a student, I thought he was killing our team. Gave him a whatnot, and I know he saw me because I was right there on the front row. It's what all fans do. We all wear our colors. We all wear our team's mascot. And we vocally tell an official when they're right, okay, never, when they're wrong. When they don't make a call, and when they do, we disagree in some manner, in some shape, in some fashion. I saw that same official a week later at Goucher. At that time, I'm wearing a shirt and tie and have a microphone. The look he gave me was pretty startling. And that's when I realized I'm embarrassing more than just myself. I'm embarrassing maybe my alma mater. I'm embarrassing my team. And it's stupid. At Vegas, I saw quite a few fans. Not everybody. A small percentage, but quite a few who decided that telling the officials what they thought about calls was much more important than actually rooting on their team. It's not rooting on your team to be yelling at officials about calls or no calls. We had one guy, I swear, yelled on every play. I had a whole set of fans behind us yelling on every play. They know who they are. I'm not pointing them out. There's also fans on the other side who are just rooting their team on and enjoying the game. The one problem with the Vegas arena is not a lot of people are there, and that's because it's Vegas, and it's a long trip for a lot of people during the holidays, which means everybody can hear them and everybody can see them. I've been at the Salem Civic Center where I had to turn down the microphones on our broadcast because I got a school behind me with their fans shouting obscenities and vulgar comments to officials. It's not pleasant. It's embarrassing when you're wearing your school colors. Get to know the game. I would argue that 75% of the time you're yelling about a call or non-call, you are wrong. I say that because I've been following this game in a college level for 17 years. I certainly now know what are good calls and bad calls. I also know that officials are human. And I also know when they're calling a game fairly and maybe just not making that call. But when I am wearing my alma mater's colors, when I am at a game cheering on my team, I no longer go after officials. Their job is hard enough. I saw 4 technical fouls at my last Goucher game. 3 on one team alone's coaches. Because they were arguing with the officials. It is embarrassing. And it really should stop. Root on your team. Root them on hard. Disagree with the officials, that's fine. But find a way to do it where you're not embarrassing yourself and you're not embarrassing your team. Your team's out there playing hard. They're playing hard and they're trying to win. And the last thing they probably need on the court is to have a parent, a student, a fan, anybody embarrassing themselves. And I am not kidding you when I say embarrassing themselves. It doesn't make you a better fan to ridicule officials, ridicule other teams, use foul language, and just be obscene. It's embarrassing. And if there's one thing I'd love to see changed from fans, it's that. There are some great fans out there. If anyone's seen a Hope Calvin game, there are some great fans. I'm not saying they don't cross the line on occasions too, but there's some great fans out there. And I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of class. That's my Hoopsville rant. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get to our School of the Week. It's not a bad school, if memory serves. We'll talk to Hartwick's men's basketball coach here in a couple minutes. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Dave McHugh alongside Chris Tarr. By the way, Chris, they've noticed you on the stream. To read a tweet from, I believe this is Slingy7187, who's apparently a Hartwick fan, I believe, because he's listening to Coach Soon on Hoopsville. But loving the sizzled shirt in the background. Yeah. How about you, stud?
You got the Goucher. I'm wearing the Ball So Hard shirt, so we're ready to go.
Sorry, just playing with your volume levels there. Yeah, very impressed. You saw the sizzle shirt. We'll try and get him some D3 shirts as well. I know he's got a few.
I got plenty.
He graduated from a few of those schools. We'll get him. We'll get him on there as well. But yeah, Ravens fans here for sure. But we're not talking football here. We're talking basketball. And by the way, he pointed out Ravens have a saying at football games about fan decorum, as I ranted about earlier. And part of it that the entire fandom does cheer is don't be a jerk. I'm not saying they're not, but it's a good point. Don't be a jerk. We're going to get on to our next segment, but don't forget to email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Also, don't forget, Twitter is @d3hoopsville, #Hoopsville. Facebook is facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can also join us in the chat room. I'm checking that there. There's been a few people there. We've appreciated them joining us there. If you got a question, please don't forget to join in and chat with us. We'll try and answer your questions, and if you have a question for someone who's listening, we'll try and or being interviewed, try and get them on the air as well. Now joining us is our School of the Week. We have a school every week that we are going to choose, and this week it is representative of the East Region. We like to make sure we cover our bases as well as possible. So joining us on the show is Todd McGuinness, the men's basketball coach for the undefeated Hartwick Hawks at 11-0. Coach, welcome to the show, and congratulations so far on the season.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'd like to point out I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so that Ravens stuff there.
You know what? I think we're getting breakup. I think there is. I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. I'd like to rescind our School of the Week as quickly as possible. No, Coach. No, it's a friendly rivalry. I got friends who I work with who are Steeler fans, so I don't have a problem with it. It's a good rivalry, and good luck in the playoffs yourselves. Please, I don't know if I want you to beat Denver or not, but good luck nonetheless. Well, welcome to the show, first and foremost, and obviously welcome to what has been a terrific start to your season. We'll get to the actual School of the Week element of this show in just a minute, but let's talk about your team first and foremost. Give us the lowdown before I go into the details on the Hartwick Hawks this year with that 11-0 start and sitting there in Oneonta, New York, clearly with a few other teams.
Yeah, we've been off to a good start. We pretty much returned everyone from our team last year. We ended up winning our league last year, won our league tournament, went to the NCAA tournament, returned all 5 starters, and have a pretty much core. We only lost one guy off the team last year, a senior that came off the bench for us. So we're doing pretty well. We had a lot of close games so far, and we were able to pull through a couple of them, and we started finally shooting the ball a little better here in the last couple of games, and we've had some games that we've been able to pull out and win by a few more points in the first couple where it seemed like every game was a 3-point game on the road. So it's been better, but we have a great group of guys, and they have that feeling. They don't want to have the feeling of losing to who did we lose to? SUNY Purchase in the NCAA tournament last year.
Right.
So it's been a good ride so far.
A little bit about the team again. 11-0 wins over jumping off the chart. Obviously, Oneonta State 57-51. That game, I'm telling you, must have been a tough one for them to get to your gym. For anybody who knows, that's pretty much a walk. Win over Delaware Valley at York, Penn State Abington at York, and now you're going to get into conference play with 2 back-to-backs on the road with Elmira and Alfred. How do you think the season has gone, and how do you think you set up the rest of the way?
I think the season's been great. If you had told me at the beginning of the year we were 11-0. Well, every coach in America would take an 11-0, and
Sure.
It's been great. And I probably, if you told me at the beginning of the year we were 9-2 coming into league play, I'd said, all right, I'll probably take that. But it's been a great season. We, our league's going to be pretty tough. It's last year, I think, won the regular season. I think even though their record's not as good as they have been, as good as it has been, they're a good team. Nazareth has beat Rochester twice already. Stevens out of Hoboken, Jersey is real good. So it's going to be it's tough with all the Friday, Saturday back-to-back games. You got to be ready to play 2 in a row, and we have to be prepared. So I think everyone's going to be coming after us a little bit with winning the regular season conference tournament last year, with being 11-0, and it's going to be tough. But we have enough good players and guys that are focused on what the ultimate goal is, and I think we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited to play some people we know a little bit, and to see what happens once we get started in the conference here.
Sure. Talking to Coach Todd McGuinness from Hartwick College. Certainly the team playing very well so far this season. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Your AOL IM is hoopsville2000. You can also join us on the chat room or join us on Twitter. That's D3Hoopsville. Don't forget about that. And or # Hoopsville, or go to facebook.com/Hoopsville or D3Hoops.com, D3Hoopsville.com. I mean, I could go through the gamut here and lose track of what we're talking about. Coach, let's talk about your team a little bit, and start with obviously the leading scorers and all that. We've got, I'm sorry, I shrunk the screen. That's horrible. Jared Sutterly at 16 points a game. Mark Blazek at 15 points a game, 13 plus out of Chris Ryder. And then 8 points out of Anthony Kane. Obviously, you look at the stats, and those are your three, even 4 big guys. Sutterly's also bringing down 8 rebounds a game, by the way. You got to be pleased with how you've got at least multiple options.
Yeah, it's been good. We've had numerous guys lead us in scoring all the time, and Jared had 2 really good games in the last tournament we were in. He won MVP of the tournament, averaged 30 points, 10 rebounds, and the teams in the tournament didn't double team him, so they picked their poison to see, all right, we're not going to let Blazak and Ryder get going. We're going to let Sutherly go, and he hit 30 and 10 in 2 games, and so it's pretty nice. A lot of teams have doubled our post players and let some other guys open, and it's a nice option to have. That I know if one guy's not scoring or it's not going well, I know there's someone else that's going to pick up the slack and be able to make some plays for us. And it's you're not relying on one guy every single game to get you 25, and if he doesn't, you're in trouble. And it's been great. As a sophomore, I think Mark Blazak averaged 20 points a game. He was a little banged up last year, and he's getting back to being himself again. He was a really good player as a sophomore. Had an injury all last year, and he's getting back to there. And Chris Ryder averaged 18 points a game last year as a junior, and Jared averaged 18. So we've had some guys that can really score, and we have great pieces around them. Our point guards do a great job. Andres Carpio had 17 points, 5 threes against Penn State Abington last game, and Anthony Keene makes some great plays around the basket. And so we have some guys that can really make plays, and the best part about them is they're such good guys. They get along well, and they don't worry about who's scoring the points. They're just worrying about the ultimate goal of winning the game, and that's a good thing for us to have.
Yeah, the bigger goal is certainly the one you want to surround yourself with. I find it fascinating that your 4 leading scorers, 2 of them are seniors, 2 of them are sophomores, including the leading guy right now in Sutterly. I think that's both a blessing and a curse for a coach. You've got 2 seniors you're obviously going to lose, but you got 2 sophomores there that clearly are going to be there for another couple seasons.
Yeah, it was good. Last year we started at times 3 freshmen, and sometimes last year our first 2 subs off the bench were freshmen. So we had a lot of younger guys last year that got a lot of minutes as freshmen that have helped develop the team to where we're at now, and it's great with the leadership of our Chris and Mark, and our starting point guard Andres Carpio is a senior too. So we have 3 seniors that start and 2 sophomores, and a lot of younger guys that come in off the bench. So it is a blessing that I know how good how good these seniors are right now. But then every day I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to replace these guys after this year. So it's it is that same way, and that's why recruiting, we got to keep finding guys to come in and help us out right away.
Obviously, this is your 3rd season at the helm of the team. What have you learned about not only Hartwick but the Empire 8 and the region, Oneonta especially, as you've progressed through your 3 years so far here?
I've learned that every game is going to be a tough one. I mean, no matter who you're playing up here in the East region, there's going to be tough games. There's some really good teams, and every game we play, it seems like every team does something well, or physical, or it's a tough region. It's a good region to be in, because if you can come out of here and you're going to be battle tested, if you can make it to the NCAA tournament, that you're going to be able to play against anyone if you get out of the East region.
Yeah, sure. It's been an interesting East region. You get some good teams, and you get some teams that surprise, like a Buffalo State. Obviously surprised last year. You get teams like Rochester, which I know you're familiar with. How do you see the East region shaping up this year?
It's interesting. I get to see a lot of games because with owning out of state, as you said earlier, I can hit a driver from my office to their gym.
Exactly.
I get to see a lot of games, so I was able to see Buff State in person. I was able to see, I saw Oswego in person, and you see them on film too. So there's a lot of good teams. I know, the teams out of the Liberty League of Hobart. We were lucky to beat Union, who hasn't lost. The only loss is us in the Liberty League. So there's some really good teams. So it's going to be interesting. I know Rochester pretty much has a lot of their guys back, so I think they're a good team. I've seen them on film. The team in our league, Nazareth, it's beat them twice already. So once we play Nazareth, we'll see how we stack up there. But there's a lot of teams with really good records right now, so it's going to be interesting once the conference play comes around, what the records start looking like there, and we'll be able to probably get a better idea who the top teams in the East.
I was going to say the East sometimes is an enigma. One, because it's a small region. I know there's a lot of talk of trying to redraw lines to help that out, but also because you have a wide gamut of areas. You got teams all the way down in New York City, which certainly play a different basketball brand than they do in Buffalo or upstate New York, and you got some teams sprinkled in from other places. If you were to try to describe somebody, the East region, or for that matter, the Empire 8, in a quick synopsis, is there any way of doing it?
With our league, I think it's fairly balanced. That's probably the best thing about it is the teams that even at the bottom. Last year Ithaca lost 2 games to Utica in our league, and they won our league, and so I think it's pretty balanced, our league, and usually there's a couple teams that are better, but the bottom teams will come around and beat them, and some games are it's really different because some teams are real physical, and some teams are very free flowing. So there's not really a set of how everyone plays. Everyone plays a little bit different. I can honestly say no one plays alike. It's every game's something different. I don't think we prepare for one team. This weekend, Elmira and Alfred are total opposites. Elmira pushes the ball up. Alfred's playing Princeton style. So it seems like every game we play, it's something different that you have to be prepared for. So it's fun. It's a good league. It's the last 3 or 4 years we've had 2 teams go to NCAA tournament. Ithaca's been nationally ranked every year, and it's good quality basketball. That's probably the best thing about it.
Interesting. Elmira 0-10 and Alfred 7-2. You do have 2 different very teams that you're going to face. We're going to get to the fun part of the school of the week here shortly, but the one thing I remembered after looking at Hartwick when I looked at schools was I remember the one thing I thought of besides almost spinning out the car with my grandparents in it on the way there, thanks to your traditional upstate New York storm. That's a lot of climbing on that hillside. That is a lot of climbing. Gives people a little bit of maybe a synopsis of what it's like to be on Hartwick's campus.
I tell you one thing: you do not want to run from the bottom to the top. That's one thing you do not want to do.
Pretty much on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, it keeps going up. I think honestly, I put in the work, and it's pretty level, and you go up one hill, and you go up another, and then there's another one. So I think the stairs from the bottom of campus to one part of campus are about 240. I probably should know this answer, but it's probably about 240 or so stairs to get from one part to the other. So I don't worry about our guys being in shape because they're walking these stairs every day. So
I was tempted to come there, but I'm telling you, I love winter, so that wouldn't have been a problem. The hike scared the heck out of me.
Yeah, we were talking about something the other day. I said, well, alumni. I said, hopefully some alumni could maybe donate some money and we just get rid of all the hills and flatten the campus. That probably would be a good idea.
Yeah, good luck. That'll just make the winters rougher. Nowhere to hide from the wind at all. Hey, Coach, you are our School of the Week. And here on Hoopsville, School of the Week, we have a fun little 5-question game show, for lack of a better description. It's simple.
Right.
Chris has done the research. Chris Tarr, this is how we get him involved. And by the way, folks, we're working on getting a camera for the man back there. But he gets involved. He's got 5 questions from having done research. I think every year we get somebody goes 5 for 5, but it all depends. They range from easy to hard. I will hand it off to Chris since we're running a little bit behind here. I do not know the questions. I don't know the answers either, Coach. But we wish you luck nonetheless. Chris, all yours, my man.
All right, Coach, you're the first segment here on School of the Week, so you're setting the bar for the rest of the season, just so you know that.
No pressure there.
I got help from your SID, Chris, with some of these questions.
That's even worse.
But he said you're a good sport, so here we go. First question. Scott Adams, a Hartwick alum, class of 1979, is the creator of what famous comic strip?
Oh, my gosh.
What's the name?
Scott Adams,
okay.
class of 79.
Wow, I don't know this.
Oh, my God. I know he lives in California. I can't tell you what. Hold on. Scott Adams. I'm going to get in trouble for not knowing this. Dilbert.
Dilbert is correct.
Whoa,
All right.
hold on.
Yeah,
I want to know if there's a computer in front of you. You
No,
delayed
actually,
just long enough.
Actually, no. I was watching the Pitt DePaul game and complaining that Pitt lost again. So, yeah, that's what I'm watching. I was no computer in front of me right now.
Very
All
nice,
right.
sir.
Good pull.
1 for 1. We're off to a good start.
All right, number 2. For a school like Hartwick that's been around for 200-plus years, there's likely to be a lot of school traditions. One WIC tradition that I looked up online that seemed interesting to me is Ooze Fest. What is Ooze Fest?
Ooze.
I think you got him again. Ooze Fest?
Ooze Fest.
O-O-Z-E?
O-O-Z Fest.
Huh.
Oh.
Or maybe O-Z-E. I got spelled twice on here differently. But
I know we have a Oneonta State thing with Oneonta State, but I don't know what. You got me there. What you're going to be able to tell me something I don't know.
there we go. Ooze Fest is the yearly tradition. It's a mud volleyball game that the freshmen participate in the night before the upperclassmen return to campus.
That's just,
Okay, yeah.
it's just so not fair.
Where did you find that at? I didn't even know that one.
That was on the school website. It sounded pretty neat. I wish they had something like that
You might need to
back
go
in
talk.
McDaniel.
You need to go talk to your players.
Yeah.
They could have gotten hurt.
Yeah. I don't know if any of them can jump high enough to play volleyball. So.
Yeah, true. All right, 1 for 2. Not bad.
All right.
All right, here we go. What year did your athletic director, Kim Fierke, win a national championship?
Oh.
All right.
Are you going to say in what, or is that going to give it away?
I think that's implied. It was women's basketball.
Okay. I know. I just,
All right.
for the viewers who don't know.
For the viewers and listeners, yep.
It had to be before I was alive.
Ooh.
So-
I
yeah,
hope
it
you don't
had
have
to
a
be.
contract coming up.
I would say maybe 60s or 70s. No. I actually do know this one because she won it the same year Hartwick went to the Final Four for the men's Final Four. So it was 88.
Yes, it was. 1988 Division III women's
come on.
basketball title. Concordia
Yeah,
Moorhead.
It's got
I
to be.
know that one. I couldn't have told you where she went to school at, but I could tell you
I'm
that.
just trying to figure out how he went from 60s to 70s and then went 88. There has got to be a computer nearby.
That one I didn't know, but I know that for a fact. So I know she's probably listening. So I wanted
Yeah, you're right.
to make sure she heard that one.
Nice.
All right, good job.
All right, 2 for 3. Not bad.
Kind of a follow-up on that question. Who did Fierke's team beat in the national title game?
I got you here too. St. John Fisher.
There you go, St. John Fisher.
Wow.
Same school that you beat in the Empire 8 championship last year.
That's why I know those answers. She has told me many a times.
She's like, I beat them in a national championship game once. 3 for 4. Final question. To start the season of School of the Week, 4 for 5. No pressure on the rest of the coaches. The final question.
All right, Coach, it's kind of a two-part question. The last one. Your Hawks have won 11 straight games. What is the Hartwick College record for consecutive wins?
I know that because if we win tomorrow, we tie it. So that's 12-0. And if I think the all-time record for consecutive wins 15.
Very good. That's what I was asking. For the start of the season, 12-0 is correct, and then 15 wins is for most consecutive wins.
There's been an SID in somebody's ear, which means he set you up, Chris.
No, I don't. No, it was on the. He sent a thing out about me being on this tonight, and it was on there about 12-0 and 15's the most. So I was given that one.
So in other words, the SID set Chris up.
That's right.
He'll get this one because I'm putting it in the press release.
The 87-88 team with 12 straight wins to start the season. The same year the Hawks went to the Final Four.
Very nice, Coach. Well done. Indeed.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that one to see if anyone beats me this year.
Yeah, there you go. Just follow in. 4 out of 5 ain't bad. I think we get 5 out of 5 maybe once.
Usually happens once, yeah.
Usually
towards the end of the year.
Chris puts in those like Ooze Fest ones, and it's over from there. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you joining us on the air. Certainly. Good luck with your athletic director after mentioning how old she is, but we'll move on from that as quickly as possible. We always give the coaches the final word here on the show, so any final thoughts you want to share with those who are listening in?
Oh, thank you so much for having us, and hopefully we talk again sometime soon.
Well, I would hope we do too. There's nothing wrong with that, as they say. Coach McGuinness, thank you so much. By the way, love the name. Being a McHugh myself, a McGuinness. I mean, please, that might be the top name we've had on the show.
All right, thank you so much,
Coach. Take care of yourself, Coach Todd McGuinness. Yep, Coach Todd McGuinness from Hartwick College, joining us. Oh, the camera's not focusing anymore. Come on, there it goes. Love it. Chris is going to jump on the line, get our next coach up on the board, as it were. And if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. # Hoopsville on your Twitter account, or join us at D3Hoopsville. Facebook is facebook.com/Hoopsville. We hope you're on our website watching. You might not be, but if you are, you already know it's D3Hoopsville.com. If you're not, by the way, the website is D3Hoopsville.com. AOL-IM, believe it or not, we do have AOL-IM, and that is Hoopsville2000 on your AOL-IM. That is Hoopsville2000, so please join us there as well, and et cetera, et cetera. We also have a chat room I've been monitoring, but not a lot of you have been chatting. I know you're in there. Hold on. Oh, got questions, and darn it, I didn't even ask them. That's a great question, Dean. Do they like the Friday-Saturday schedule? I should have checked my email faster. I should have asked him. You're right, but we'll have other coaches on in the future. Of course, Dean, if you're listening, you know that's going away next year, unfortunately, in the Landmark Conference. Thank you very much from the women's basketball coach at Keystone, Katie Tetzlaw, who enjoyed having Coach McGuinness on the show. And she liked the picture we had him. I can't take credit for the picture. We took that right off their website. Yes, he is a great coach, and we appreciate him coming on. And then the last one was Sean McDonald, huge fan of Coach Todd and the Hawks. Ask him if he got those fresh tailored blue suits, where he got them from. You know what? We'll try and email him and ask him those questions. I'm sorry I missed those. The email was down for a moment there, and I missed it, so I'm terribly sorry. Again, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. IM us at hoopsville2000. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. Ask us a question there as well, please. Just # Hoopsville. We'll answer your questions. Just send them away, and that's another great way to get questions answered on the air. We'll be happy to do that as well. We're going to jump right to our next section. We're going to jump all the way into the South region. And joining us on the air is Piedmont women's basketball coach Jamie Purdy. I hope I said your last name, Coach, correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
Very good. Congratulations on an 11-0 season. We have a lot of undefeateds here back-to-back. 11-0 on the season so far. Obviously 3-0 in conference as you've started off the season in the GSAC pretty darn well. Let's start there. How do you feel the season's gone from your point of view?
I'm excited about our start. I think we just came out, ready to play. We've got several things that kind of happened in preseason that forced us to make adjustments early on, and it ended up working out for the better.
Can you allude to what those changes were?
Well, we go into the season anticipating having 6 or 7 post players, and we immediately start with 4, 2 of those being freshmen. So that completely changed our offensive philosophy, I guess. We had to, certainly tweak things according to our personnel. So now we have 4 guards, 1 post offense. So that was a big change for us.
Yeah, just slightly. How has the team adjusted? I mean, obviously 11-0 looks good, but I mean, have they adjusted?
Yeah, they have. I mean, they bought into what we're doing. We are certainly blessed to have 6'4" Sade Wheeler inside me. Anderson is a girl that comes in off the bench for Sade that's done well for us. She's a junior. And then we have, 2 freshmen who are getting some work. They are obviously behind 2 tough posts, so they're just having to get better each day. But we're also blessed with many guards that can get in and contribute on the boards. We're small, but they get in and get after it, so it helps.
Getting a little break up from you, Coach. No pressure on you. Just wanted to explain to everybody at home. We're aware. It happens with cell phones. They're not perfect these days. From your point of view, how obviously the season has started well. Are you surprised though at how well you guys have started?
Well, I certainly would have never thought that we would start the season being 11-0. I didn't think that it was impossible, but. I didn't go into the year thinking that we would be undefeated at this point. We had a trip out to California. I had no idea what those teams were going to be like. Ended up, walking away 3-0 from that,
yeah.
Fortunately, so that was nice. But we're blessed. We've been blessed.
Let's talk about your team. You alluded to them a little bit. Wheeler with 15 points a game. Satterfield, 12.5, 11 points out of Jones. And of course, there's 2 Wheelers on this team, so I kind of didn't do that very much justice. Sada, I believe, is that? Sade Wheeler at 15 points, and Shanice Wheeler at nearly 10 points a game. And you don't want to forget about Thompson, Hamill, and Anderson, who are certainly contributing quite a bit. You certainly have quite a few weapons. Yeah,
we do. I mean, our upperclassmen have really stepped up this year. They've bought into what we're doing. I focus a lot on defense. I tell our guards especially to allow our defense to create our offense. If we can eliminate, a team getting down and actually setting up in a defense, that's what we want to do. So, we try and get steals and score and fast break and transition as much as possible. And having a lot of quick guards, people that can go in and out, that certainly helps.
You speak defense. I happen to know one of the guys that came down to do a little defensive work with your team. What is this philosophy? Is it whatever works? Are you trying different things? Does it depend on the team? Does it depend on the game? Are you throwing wrinkles at teams all the time?
It depends on the opponent. I mean, we try and mix up defenses as much as possible. And yes, you're referring to John Zeke, our athletic director, and he certainly knows the game well and has a great history with the game of basketball. I think he's getting adjusted to coaching women. That's
a little different.
An adjustment for him. It is a little different. I don't think he expected it to be as different as it is. But anyway, he offers a lot of good advice. But I've always been big on defense. I mean, I would have never played college ball if it weren't for defense. I certainly wasn't an offensive threat, so that's kind of just carried over to my coaching philosophy as well. But we like to mix things up as much as possible and keep opponents on their toes.
We talk about your college basketball, and of course, if no one knows, you certainly have a pretty strong background, being the fact that you got your undergraduate at Piedmont. What's it like to be coaching your alma mater now in your 7th season?
Well, it's a blessing. My family lives close by, so it's nice to have that support system. When I graduated college, I never thought that I would be coaching basketball. My high school and my college coach told me that would be my career path, and I didn't believe them. And then when I finished playing, I thought life was over. I didn't know what I was going to do, and that's kind of how I got into coaching. I had a passion for it and just couldn't let go. Piedmont is always somewhere that I said, I would like to go back to, just the area in general. I didn't realize it would be that soon. The opportunity came about, and I jumped on it. I was afraid to pass it up, and so I'm glad that I did.
Of course, you're a member of the Athletic Hall of Fame for starters because you had such a terrific career to begin with, but also have helped this team now to 3 conference championships in the Great South Athletic Conference in 5 years. And 29 last year. You've got to feel pretty good with where you brought this program, and you talk like this is where you want to be for the long haul. Do you ever consider coaching somewhere else, or is Piedmont where your home is? Trick question,
Well,
I realize.
It is with a 3-year-old, a 20-month-old, and a baby on the way, and family within a mile of from my house. This is probably where I'm going to be for a while. It's just family reasons. Like I said, I'm fortunate. I'm very blessed to have my family close by. I love Piedmont. I love the student athletes that we're able to get there, and I just have a strong connection. So for the next several years, this is where I see myself.
I love the picture on the roster page. If anyone gets a chance to go to the Piedmont women's basketball page and check out the roster picture, you got Coach Zeke in the background there. Of course, he's listed as an assistant. What's it like to have your boss, or what's it like to be the boss of your boss, if that makes any sense?
I like it. It's the only time in my life that I can tell my boss to shut up and get away with it.
That's true.
I laugh with him on the bench. I joked with him yesterday that at some point he's going to get me a technical foul.
You haven't gotten one yet?
Not yet, but he's on his way. He gives the officials a lot harder time than I do. Fortunately for me, I married an official. So I had to realize that, that's somebody's father, son, mother, wife, whatever, that I'm cussing out. So it certainly helped me to back off a little bit. But, Coach Zeke is fun. He's fun to have out there. Again, he's very knowledgeable of the game. He offers a lot of insight, a lot of suggestions. There's things that we agree on. There's things that we don't agree on. But he allows me, obviously the freedom to make those decisions. And I think that's fortunate, and it's a blessing to have him on staff. We're
talking to Coach Jamie Purdy here on Hoopsville. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to fire them away. We got many places to do it. You can do it on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or the # Hoopsville. You can also join us in the chat room. You can join us on email, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also join us on AOL-IM. It still exists these days. It's Hoopsville2000 on that one, and we'll try and get your questions answered for Jamie, who is joining us here on the show. Coach, the GSAC and the South Region. Obviously, the GSAC especially, you guys are on top of that right now. It's an interesting conference. Obviously, lots going on, if anyone doesn't know. But on the women's side, it's pretty strong, pretty solid. Men's side, it's always up in the air. But, you're on top there. LaGrange is kind of sitting there along with you. How do you see this conference shaking out?
Well, I'm anxious to see, honestly. We've got LaGrange next week on Wednesday, so I'm anxious to see how we perform against them. I mean, they have pretty much everybody returning as well. Maryville's always strong. There's several teams that you never know what you're going to get when you get out there. So I think it all comes down to what we do, and that's what I try to preach to my players. Is I'm not as concerned about everybody else as much as I am about us and us playing our game.
Certainly, the South region is a challenging one as well. You've got plenty of teams, especially from the ODAC. You go all the way over to Texas. You certainly have plenty of basketball teams and women's teams that are pretty darn good. How do you see this team at 11-0 shaping up with the rest of the region?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I would have to. I haven't really compared us to everyone else. I mean, I think we're a tough team to defend. We have a great inside presence, and again, we have a lot of guards that can create. We have people on the outside that can shoot. So I think we have several advantages. People underestimate us just because of our size. I mean, basically, we have the 6'4" Sade Wheeler, and then everybody else seems, like they're 5'2" and below. And so when you walk in the gym, you don't think we're going to do much. But, our quickness and our intensity on the defensive end, causes problems for people. So, I mean, just like last year, first round of the NCAAs, we play Thomas More, who was number 1 and at the time. And I think after we started playing and after we got over oh, my goodness, we're playing the number 1 team, we finally started playing and cut it to within like 4 or 5, at the end of the game. So I think we're certainly capable of competing with these teams, but we have to show up and everybody has to be ready to play.
Sure. I can understand that entirely. Love to talk about another topic. I know I alluded to you, and you've got another one on the way. Obviously, the one wrinkle with women's basketball coaches is they do have a family life, and I applaud the fact that coaches don't just sit aside and let that family life kind of fit in where it can. But what are the challenges like to be coaching and also being pregnant or caring for kids and having that huge responsibility at home?
It's tough. There's a major guilt factor. I feel guilty about taking time away from my team. I feel guilty about taking away time from my kids, my husband. My husband is a blessing. Although he calls it babysitting, he does a great job of taking care of the kids during season. So that certainly helps. Having my mom around helps. But it's tough. We do plan our family a lot of times around our job. I mean, just the timing of when to try and have a baby and when not to. I mean, it's tough, and we're just hoping that we can get through this pregnancy without any hiccups, and I can complete the season, and then I can focus on my family for a few months before we get back for next season.
If memory serves, Coach Zeke stepped in and helped you out with your last birth. If I could be wrong yet. But I assume you have a support system in place, and I mean, I assume it's to the bitter end, if at all possible. I saw a women's basketball coach at Vegas, and I did not get a chance to chat with her, who was also pregnant. It's got to be tough though on the sidelines to be able to stay involved with the game when maybe at one point you can't continue to stand. I mean, what are the challenges like, and how do you face those challenges?
I would say that was probably one of the toughest things for me that I've had to face was the last pregnancy and being put on bed rest. I have a great assistant coach, Angela Middleton, who was a high school coach for many years, very knowledgeable of the game, but she still teaches.
Right.
So her coming in and out of sometimes she can be at practice, sometimes she can't.
Sure.
And that kind of forced Coach Zeke to step in and take over, and we were lucky with that. I came back at the end of the season, and I just sat on the bench as an assistant, and he continued on as a coach just to keep from,
I thought you were his boss.
Yeah. Well, this year I am, and I'm hoping I can go to the very end with that. But I've got to listen to my body. That was a lesson learned. Right now I'm still standing up, pacing the sideline, and doctors are telling me to sit down, so I have to start listening.
I assume the chairs are comfortable. I know they are in most gyms.
They are, but for some reason I like the floor.
Sure, I can understand that. Most coaches I know, it's hard to keep them sitting on a chair, which I applaud you for everything you're doing. So congratulations on all that. I know it's an extra it's an extra element to the coaching rank with everything else you have to do, and I'm sure your team is thrilled nonetheless. But congratulations on that. Good luck the rest of the way. We certainly will keep an eye on the Piedmont women's basketball team as you maybe climb the polls even higher. Number 20 now at 11-0. I assume you are looking for more and better things from your team, especially when you get into conference play. We always give the coach the final word on this show. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who are listening in?
No, I just appreciate you having us on. We're very glad that Piedmont's getting our name on the map finally. I think the girls deserve that recognition, and I appreciate you having us and just getting our name out there.
Absolutely, no problem with that. Certainly love doing it. I know your guys are also mentioned on the Around the Nation article. People should check that out as well. I did forget to ask, though, and this is horrible. The final question is always to you, but you married a referee, which begs the question. How did you meet a referee and then date and then marry? Most people would never see that happening.
Well, he actually the first time I saw him, he officiated one of my games. Then I didn't actually meet him. I didn't actually meet him for a few months later, and I was playing in a March of Dimes tournament, and I met him at that time. And then he had to quit officiating.
He quit officiating altogether?
Well, he just did high school, and then when we had children, he had to quit.
Oh.
He gave up officiating to babysit.
He probably also tells you when you're wrong about arguing with the official.
Oh, yes. But you know what? It's actually very helpful because his voice stands out amongst many others in the crowd. And so when I hear him yell something about a call, or he'll yell, shot clock, or it's not a reset, then that's when I know I can start because he's right.
That's just an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I have a little bit of an advantage.
It's just not. It's nice, though. It's nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I can go earn this one. Very good. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck the rest of the season. Good luck with the third child along the way as well. Hopefully the season continues to be just as good as it has started so far, and send Coach Zeke our best.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Very good. Coach Purdy joining us from Piedmont. Certainly appreciate her doing that, as we always do. And foremost, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. We appreciate it nonetheless. Another team to watch. Those Lady Lions certainly playing some very darn good basketball. We appreciate that. We're going to take a break. By the way, I want to thank, Coach Seidenberger from Penn State Harrisburg gave us a shout-out on Twitter. We appreciate him doing that. Thank you very much. Also, the Edgewood Eagles giving us a shout-out on Twitter. Certainly appreciate the support, you guys. Thank you so very much for doing that. We hope you are enjoying the show, obviously. And if you have any questions, Hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Hoopsville at d3hoops.com is your email address. You can also join us in the chat room. I know there's people there. I know people have gone on our Hoopsville fan page. Dean Kerwin responding to my rant. I appreciate that he enjoyed that. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, #Hoopsville, or join us on Facebook Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Join us there as well. By the way, we do archive the shows. They'll be up as soon as we can get them up as well. Going to take a very short break. Rusty Egan on the other end when we talk about Great Lakes basketball here on the show. We'll be back with more Hoopsville coming up here in just a moment. And welcome back to Hoopsville. Apologize for no actual airing of commercials or any ads or anything like that. We'll get those ready to go for Sunday's show. Don't forget Hoopsville on Thursdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern live. Sundays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern live. Myself and Chris Taher will join you, though I will warn you in a couple weeks, Pat Coleman will fill in for me on a Sunday, barring any major changes. But again, Sundays from 7 to 9 and Thursdays from 8 to 10. Is your schedule. We do archive the shows if you miss any part of them. We'll even try and grab our highlights this year and do a better job with that. Chris Taher is our producer extraordinaire over my right shoulder. We'll get him a camera that works. Trust me. And, of course, I'm Dave McHugh. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, #Hoopsville. Facebook is facebook.com/Hoopsville. The website is D3Hoopsville.com. Don't forget AOL-IM is Hoopsville2000. Or you can join us via email. That is Hoopsville@D3Hoops.com. I said Rusty Egan. Can't believe I said that. That is our Northeast guy who will be joining us on rotation. He will be joining us hopefully on Sunday. If not, then the next Sunday we'll get him on the show. I meant to say it was our good friend from Mount Union who usually gets plenty of attention during football season, but is getting plenty of attention during basketball season thanks to the fact that we are going to give him that attention. And Lenny Reich from Mount Union University joins us here on the phone to talk about the Great Lakes region. Lenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having us. Yeah, usually we're in Salem at different times than we are right now.
Though in the last 2 years, I am now joining you there.
That's right. Yeah, you're the hardest working man in Salem.
Oh, hey, let's not go there. I would agree, but there's a lot of other guys doing a lot of hard work too. So, of course, never even saw you there this year, which is strange. I don't know how we didn't pass like two ships in the night, but
well, it's like the press box in Salem Stadium's kind of a segmented like apartment building. So if you're in a different wing, it's hard to see. But it is a very busy week, and obviously I know you and all the crew down there that do a great job, along with my colleague at Whitewater, Tom Fick. We're we see each other more at Christmas time than we see our families. But it's a neat place, and the folks do a great job down in Salem with both football and basketball.
Oh, absolutely, they do a terrific job, and congratulations as always to another great season for the Purple Raiders despite the loss. You can't shake your head at the season, and certainly getting there 7 times is tough enough. But let's not talk about football here on the Hoopsville show. Let's talk about basketball. And as we are doing this year a little bit different, we're bringing in people from around the country and around the regions and multiple people to get different voices from a lot of people about different regions. And you are helping us out with the Great Lakes region, which I certainly want to thank you for. First and foremost, let's talk about the Great Lakes region in the sense of the Purple Raiders and how they are shaping up both on the men and women's side from your point of view.
Well, on the men's side, quickly we're starting over a little bit there. We have a brand new coach, a guy named Mike Fewline, who was a very successful high school coach in Northeast Ohio. He won a Division I state championship 2 years ago at Jackson High School, which is not far from our campus, and has come on, and it's going to be a little bit of a reclamation project there. We are winless in the league, but I think we are well on our way. And I know he wanted me to make sure to mention, if there's any, 6'8" guys out there looking for a home, that he'll have a place for them. But no, I mean, and we're as you know, the OAC, an extremely competitive league, has sent many different representatives down to Salem and other things, and so it's a tough league to build in, and they're going to try and do that and work on that. On the flip side, I think the result of what gives our men's program hope is the phenomenal job that Susie Bennett has done with our women's program over the last 7 years that she's been a coach, and our women's program was in as rough shape as our men's was when she took over 7 years ago, and she has done an unbelievable job, and the Mount Union women are ranked 16th in the country. They're a half team out of first in the OAC right now, 11-1, 4-1. You were just talking to Coach Purdy. We were at that same regional a year ago, down at Thomas More with them, and in Mount Union's women have been in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, made to the Sweet 16 2 years ago, lost to Thomas More last year in the second round, and they're 2-time defending champs in the league, so they are primed and ready to go, and they have, as you find out as we're talking more about the region, it's kind of a showdown weekend, or ends up that way, in a lot of conferences in our region with schedules, and this Saturday, Mount Union's women will host Ohio Northern, who's 5-1 in the league, a half game ahead of Mount Union, 11-2 overall, and they're the two hottest teams in the league right now, and they're going to play each other on Saturday. So it's setting up well there. As far as the rest of the OAC on the women's side, probably the surprise team, the name won't sound surprising because they've had a lot of success in the past, but Wilmington's women were picked 7th in the preseason poll, and they are 4-2 in the league right now, so they're right on Mount Union, Ohio Northern's heels, 9-4 overall. Jerry Sheedy there does a fantastic job at coach, and probably the question mark team, or team you're kind of wondering what's happened to them, is Baldwin Wallace, who was picked second. They got a first place vote The one, Mount Union got 8 of the first place, or 9 of the first place votes. BW got the other one, and they're 8-5 overall, but they're just 3-3 in the conference. So they've had some of their struggles early on in the conference. Of course, the OAC, because it's such a large conference, there's 5 league games before Christmas. So there's a lot of league action already in, where I know some of the people you've already talked to tonight, leagues are just getting ramped up. Well,
right.
The OAC is well into their league schedule by now. And so we've got some great matchups coming up in the league and great things going on.
Talking to Coach, I'm so used to saying Coach, to Lenny Reich from Mount Union University. Of course, got rid of that college thing. Don't get me started. That's a whole nother rant for me. From the Great Lakes region. Nothing against you. It's everybody else. It's this push to add universities. Anyway, let's talk about quickly about the OAC. You mentioned Mount Union, of course, 11-1, sitting second, a half game out, thanks to Ohio Northern being one more win right now on the women's side. And of course, you mentioned the men. Let's quickly look at that. Wilmington's leading the league. 5-1, though surprisingly they're 6-5 overall. John,
and an even bigger surprise, Dave, is that their best player from a year ago, their all-conference player, Tyler White, he is out for the year.
Right.
He won't play for them the rest of the year, and they've still been able to put together a 5-1 season. Sophomore Malcolm Hurts had a great year for him. He's the nation's leader in field goal percentage, and in our league to go 5-1 is really impressive. And hot on their heels is John Carroll.
Yeah.
They've got who I believe, me personally, the best player in our league, a guy named Corey Shantz, who's a guard for them, and they rallied last night from 18 points down to beat Baldwin Wallace in a crosstown rivalry game.
Yep.
And so they're set up at 4-1, and they will play Wilmington, and John Carroll are going to play Saturday as well, and so that's going to set up to be a great matchup there. And I don't know if it's going to get much separation. I think anybody that follows men's basketball on the OAC side knows that usually the league champion could have as many as 4 or 5 losses.
Yeah.
Just the way the league kind of cannibalizes itself throughout the year, and so I think people are expecting that. And I think BW, they're definitely the surprise team in the league right now a little bit, and they were picked 7th, and they obviously were up big on John Carroll last night. They're 3-2 in the league and 8-4 overall. And then probably the other surprise on the other side is Marietta, a team that was preseason a top 10 team in the country, top 5 team, and suffered a very bad injury to Trevor Halter, who was the OAC's Player of the Year last year, and he's just kind of getting back into things, coming off the bench right now. But they're still just 3-2 in the league, so kind of almost everybody, everybody's in the race and everybody's fighting hard. And Ohio Northern had knocked off both John Carroll and Marietta, and then last night lost to Heidelberg. So it's just the way the league goes. I've worked at 2 of the schools in the league, and I've heard men's coaches say at both schools that you want to win your home games and then go 500 on the road. And if you do that, you're going to be 14-4, and you're probably going to win the conference.
We talk about the conference very quickly. John Carroll, the Blue Streaks, back in the 08-09 season at home in the sectional round of the NCAA tournament, losing to Guilford in a heartbreaker in the first game, the Sweet 16, and then, not getting to take on, I think it was conference. Was it Baldwin Wall, Ohio Northern?
Capital was the other.
Capital was the other team. That's right.
And then Capital got knocked off by Dallas.
Right, Texas-Dallas. So it was Guilford versus Texas-Dallas.
In Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. I know. Talk about strange. I was calling the game. It was very quiet there. My question is, though, you expect John Carroll to maybe have a good year. You expect Baldwin Wallace maybe have a good year. You expect Ohio Northern Capital, Heidelberg. I mean, there's so many teams in this conference on the men's side that you expect things from, and we just haven't seen it in years recently. Is the conference down? Has it just been bad luck?
I think one of the issues is, and we could do a whole 2-hour show on just this, one of the issues is the way the NCAA selection tournament is set up now works against Ohio Athletic Conference men's basketball, and the fact that if you're a large league that plays 18 of your 25 games in the league, your strength of schedule numbers not going to be good because of that. Because you're playing each other so much, and you can't get out of the conference and play some other games, and we're there's so much parity in our league, it's difficult to get a second team ready there. And so we really end up being essentially the last couple of years a one-bid league.
But I also mean making runs the NCAA tournament or being a dominating team. I miss the days that at least one team in this conference kind of rose up and went, guess what? We're the top dogs. The rest of you can just sit and stay, and we're going to go into the NCAA tournament. You know, John Carroll did that, like I said, a few years back. We've seen Ohio
Northern.
There was
a run where Otterbein, John Carroll, and Ohio Northern all went to a different Final Four in consecutive years. And I think, and you know, Dave, since you see basketball across the country at our level, I think it's the physical nature of play in our conference is such, you know, it'll take people back to 1980s Big East basketball or something. I mean, it is a grind every night, and I think sometimes that obviously has an effect on a team when you're getting to game 30, game 31, or whatever else, to be able to play, you know, at that high level all the time. I was just out at Lycoming 2 days this week with our men's team at a tournament, and there were some, fouls called on our team that if those guys were officiating in our conference, I don't know if we'd have two sets of teams by the end of the game to go at it, just because it's a different style of play in definitely the OAC, and I think also the Michigan League are both two leagues that play just a very physical style of basketball, and sometimes that's tough to maintain over a long season.
No, that certainly makes sense, and I don't want to disparage the conference in any way. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that next John Carroll season, that next not Otterbein season, but Otterbein type of season.
Yep. Well, the OAC is trying to make some changes. Our tournament format's going to change a little bit this year, where the first two teams are going to get double byes, and so we're going to try and protect the top two teams a little more to help make the regular season obviously more valuable, and obviously make it so we've got maybe an at-large candidate that looks a little better. I know there's a lot of talk in our conference down the road of looking at the conference schedule, you know, as far as do we come up with some way to not play a double round robin to give our league a chance to play more out-of-conference games. Yeah. You know, there's obviously a flip side of that with travel expenses and those kind of things. But I think, you know, there's a lot of smart people in our league that are trying to come up with some creative ideas to help do just what you have. I think, I think the frustration that you said about our league is something that our coaches and our administrators and our people feel like too, because we think we have a couple teams that if they get in the right scenario can do some serious things on a national level, and you know, we're fortunate as a league to compete in a lot of sports at that level, and so I think we really want to be in that position, and so we're trying to make moves to make it that way. But I mean, what you said is exactly right.
Let's jump around the rest of the Great Lakes. As always, we're running into overtime here on Hoopsville. Let's stay on the men's side. Let's talk MIAA, the Michigan Conference, as you mentioned. Hope and Calvin certainly get the attention in this one, but there's other good teams. Hope out to an 11-1 start, 1-0 in conference. They've all started conference, so half the teams are 1-0. Hope, Adrian, Trine, Albion, with Calvin, Kalamazoo, Alma, and Olivet 0-1. But it's really all about Hope right now, as Calvin's 5-7. Adrian is 8-3. But I always say this because Hope doesn't schedule a lot of D3 teams to begin the season.
No,
I don't know, and I will say I don't know why they can't figure this out. Their women's team has.
Well, I think some of it. I think some of it they get locked into tradition, and there is an NAIA conference in Southern Michigan.
Sure,
and so
but tradition's a good point.
They have a lot of teams that they can play that don't require a lot of travel. It's always I know from. I spent a couple of years in that conference, and then all the years that I've lived in Ohio, and it's tough to. It's amazing. It's so tough to get those teams to come to Ohio, and flip side, tough for Ohio teams to go to Michigan. A lot of it just because you're going to drive by a lot of schools. If you're Hope, you're going to drive by a lot of schools to get to Ohio. Yeah. And while there might be a lot of great, fans loving OAC, MIAA crossover matchups, you're driving by a lot of schools, and so schools sometimes make those decisions that they would rather, play some teams closer to home or have some local rivalries that they have to pay attention to. And I think, I think it's just one of those things that Hope obviously steeped in tradition, and I think one of those traditions becomes their schedule. And I think too that both leagues are so competitive, and including the NCAC in that as well, is that those leagues are all tough leagues to play in your league schedule. That it's hard to convince some of those coaches, hey, let's go play that team or let's go play that team, because they're going to have a grind, 3/4 of their year in their conference.
Quickly on Hope, usually they come out of that kind of beginning season with those NAIAs, and they're kind of 3-3, 4-3, stuff like that. They're 11-1 right now. Are they legit?
Oh, I would think so. I mean, I have not seen them play or haven't seen any film on them yet, as we haven't crossed over with any teams from up there. But I would think if you're 11-1 and they, and even though they don't play a lot of D3 teams, it's not that they play a weak schedule. I mean, those NAI schools are given scholarships. So they're. I think they're definitely for real. They're. They look like they're off to a great start. They play Adrian on Saturday, a team you were talking about. That might be a team on the rise to challenge. Adrian's 8-3. They've won 4 in a row. A year ago, they were a 500 team. So they might be a team that's ready to step up, and they're going to be a test. And as well as I do, since you and I have both been to Hope Calvin games, that I don't care what Calvin's record is, that when it comes to that
it does
game,
not matter.
And it's not going to It's not going to matter. And of course, obviously Calvin's probably in the point right now where that'll make their year or something. If the NCAA tournament's not in their cards, they have that they can put circle on their calendars and play for and make it an exciting race. So I think the MIAA is there's usually some surprises there, and so I would be shocked if I guess I wouldn't be shocked either way. I wouldn't be shocked if this Hope team looks like it's got the legs to make a run and run through the schedule yet. I think there's always, some Wednesday night somewhere, whether you're in Olivet's gym or Alma's gym or Trine or somewhere else, where they might have a tough game and something might happen.
Hope, by the way, first 5 games of the season and first 8 of 12 against non-Division III opponents. Jumping the NCAC, Ohio Wesleyan on top there at 11-1. Wittenberg and Wabash behind them. Worcester 10-2, but 1-2 in the conference. Huh?
It's definitely a surprise. Well, it's one of those things where somebody's got to play somebody all the time, and Worcester, unfortunately for them, had to start off the league schedule against two of the better teams in Wabash and I think Wittenberg and those teams that they played, and so they got themselves into a spot where they're going to have to play a little catch up, and obviously they've done it before, and when people have left them for dead or something, they've managed to find a way to come back and win. So I'm definitely not counting Worcester out yet or anything like that. So I'm sure they.
But with Ohio Wesleyan 11-1, 3-0, Wittenberg 9-3, 3-0, Wabash 10-1, 2-0, Hiram even 8-3, 1-1, and DePaul 7-4, 1-1. DePaul their first season in the league, and Worcester 8-2, 1-2. This is setting up to be a dogfight.
Oh, I think that was one of the things with DePaul coming in the league, is they were bringing in another team in the league that really can shake things up. I think for a long time people thought from the outside looking in that it was always just a 2-horse race in Worcester and Wittenberg, and I think Wabash has done well in the league, and I think that DePaul, like we said, coming in, the Hiram team, I saw them play early this year, and they seem to be a team that on any night they've got the athletes that they can run with some folks, and so I think it's the most balanced that the league has shown in a long time, and I think it's going to make for some really exciting basketball games, other than just circling the calendars for when that Wittenberg-Worcester game is going to be.
Hey, let's jump to the women's side very quickly. Back to the MIAA. You got Hope and Calvin on top. 5-0. That can't be right. 5-0 in conference?
Yeah, there's something where they've played. Well, they do have a different. They have
a different schedule than
the women's side, because they do have an all-women's school in the league.
Right, I forgot about that.
That does some different things.
But 5-0 in conference for both. 12-0 for Calvin. 13-1 for Hope. That is going to be a 2-horse race.
12 in a row. They're on a collision course. They will meet on Saturday at Calvin, so they'll get some. They'll get some clarity there. Another team, kind of in the hunt there. Albion, who was 14-13 a year ago. They're 3-2 right now. So they're only 2 games back, and obviously, like we said, one of those 2 teams is going to take a loss. Kind of the question mark team there would be St. Mary's. They were picked 4th. They're 1-3 and 5-8 overall. So obviously, they have not gotten out to the start that coaches or folks that voted on their preseason poll thought they would come out to. But yeah, it looks like it's just going to be Calvin and Hope on that collision course. They're probably going to play 3 times, the 2 regular season meetings, and then probably the league championship game. And I would assume both teams are strong enough that they're both probably going to be playing into March. And so it's definitely going to set up to be an exciting game Saturday, and then see how the rest of the season goes.
Hey, that's one thorough report for the first one of the year, sir.
Well, we do what we can.
I appreciate it.
I did this. How many years ago were you and I doing this? We did this a long.
I don't remember if it was the very first year when Pat finally pushed you in, or if it was maybe that second year after a few year layoff. But yeah, it was a while ago.
Well, it was great, and I know you're in overtime, and I'll give you I'll go off on my own thing for just a second.
Please,
I know
go ahead.
Usually interview the last comment or whatever is that we obviously at Mount Union we are. A lot of people might know about it. Doesn't have a lot to do with. It didn't have anything to do with basketball, but affected all of us at our whole athletic department. A year ago, we had a tragic van accident that was a year ago this coming weekend, and we lost a dear colleague, friend, coworker of mine, Dan Gorman, who was our head athletic trainer, who passed away in that vehicle accident. And so obviously we're going to think about him a lot this weekend as he was with our wrestling team that was traveling back from a match. Our wrestling team is on their way out to the national duels this weekend in Illinois. So we, think of him, pray for his family, and, since then we've named our training room after him, and he was really the heart and soul that started our certified teaching athletic training program. And so we, think of him and his family in this time, and just know that, I think myself, as you do, as I'm sure a lot of people that work in this business do, that how many hours you're on the road and how many things you're out there with teams and crazy times of night you're driving back from games and those kind of things. And so it's just, I think twice now every time I come home and get home to my house and my family, and, and it's just one of those things. And I hope that, my friends and colleagues and things in athletic departments, that no athletic department ever has to deal with something like that themselves again. But it's just one of those things that happened a year ago, and I think we've done a great job moving on from it. But it's always this time of year where we think about it.
I will admit you guys handled that extremely well. It was a tough thing to deal with. Certainly don't want to see anybody have to deal with it in the future. You're right. You guys handled it extremely well, and hats off to your program on everything you guys have done in his honor. And good luck this weekend. I know that will be a little bit emotional for everybody. And I will look forward to chatting with you down the road. I hope more Great Lakes basketball action and breaking it down the way you've done so well tonight. I appreciate you joining us on the debut of what I believe is our 9th season.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks a lot. Well, thanks for having us.
Well, thank you so much, Lenny. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
Lenny Reich joining us here on the Great Lakes Region Report here on Hoopsville. We are well into overtime. That means we got to wrap it up. Chris Tarr's got to go to bed. He's got his beauty sleep. He's got to take care of that, and we don't want to deprive the man of his beauty sleep. We'll be on the air Sunday when we will cover the Northeast Atlantic, more of the South. The South region is an enigma, so we kind of break it up into 2. We'll cover more of the South. We'll also cover the Midwest, and we'll cover. Did I get everything? Northeast Atlantic, part of the South, Midwest, or Central. I think that's pretty much it, because on this night we cover the East, the Mid-Atlantic, part of the South, Great Lakes, and West. We'll also, by the way, have our newest segment, Why D3. You might know it as the hashtag that you've seen on Twitter. It's an initiative about why D3 is so important to so many people. We will have our first installment of the Why D3 segment. Don't know the guest just yet. We're working on that. But we'll get back to you on that. And, of course, more to come. Chris has got some good ideas. I've got some ideas. We'll get them out there for you. Shows are archived for your enjoyment. We'll even try and grab highlights for you so you can listen to individual segments. And don't forget, this is your only place to hear coaches, administrators, players, anybody you can name. Anywhere between now and the championships, right here on d3hoopsville.com. You can also find us on Ustream. Obviously, that's our broadcaster. Yes, it's free. I apologize for the ads. It's what we do right now. We'll see if we can afford to buy the ads off that, but that's a little bit of a tough price for a lot of us and tough budgets. But we appreciate you joining us. Don't forget, follow us on Hoopsville at D3 Hoopsville. That's at D3 Hoopsville. I think I'm somewhere around 850. I wouldn't mind hitting 1,000 in the next couple of weeks. Wouldn't that be cool? At D3 Hoopsville. Pound sign is Hoopsville, so pound sign Hoopsville. Facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can follow us there. We'll be updating that site in the next few days and weeks to come. Of course, you can also email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Sorry I missed those comments earlier, and there's also a chat room as well. Those are the ways you can get a hold of us. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will be signing off for the rest of the night, and we'll be back on Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and again Thursdays at 8 to 10 p.m. The rest of the way, all the way up through the championships in Salem and in Hope. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.